Cost of living crisis.
Yep.
What should I be doing? Mentally and practically.
Oh, good question. So I think the first thing you need to be doing really is, which a lot of people do, and I put a video out about this morning, is stop playing the victim. So yes, things are more expensive. Yes, your energy bills have gone up. Yes, if you're renting, your rent's probably going to go up. Yes, your mortgage is probably going up as well.
It is. I think today mine's going up. I think today
the trade finished.
Aye.
But look, at the end of the day, sort of take stock on all the other stuff that you're spending shit on. Take stock of what you've been doing for the last 1, 2, 3 years.
Mate, it's useful to do that anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And you know yourself, and you're a big advocate of this, and you taught me this, is that, look, there's something very empowering of stop. If you're pointing the finger at everyone else and playing the victim, you're giving that power away. There's something really empowering of going, I fucked up. I've spent too much money. I'm where I am in life, financially, happiness, fitness, or business, because of the choices I've made up until this point in my life.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another random off-the-cuff episode of Paul Mort Talks Shit. Now, I did say truth is, I wasn't going to do a podcast for months. Hadn't got time in my schedule. But my friend Joe is here today, and we had a bit of spare time in both our schedules, so we thought, fuck it, let's get Joe Woodhouse on Paul Mort Talks Shit. Welcome, Mr. Woodhouse. Excited?
Very.
Are you nervous?
Very. Don't know what you're going to ask.
All right, so, mate, I'm not going to do that thing where it's like tells your backstory. I'm just going to dive straight into it.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll get to kind of what your trade is and that now, but I want to blast out some value straight away.
Okay.
I want to blast out straight into the value. Cost of living crisis.
Yep.
What should I be doing? Mentally and practically.
Oh, good question. So I think the first thing you need to be doing really is, which a lot of people do, and I put a video out about this morning, is stop playing the victim. So yes, things are more expensive. Yes, your energy bills have gone up. Yes, if you're renting, your rent's probably going to go up. Yes, your mortgage is probably going up as well.
It is. I think today mine's going up. I think today
the trade finished.
Aye.
But look, at the end of the day, sort of take stock on all the other stuff that you're spending shit on. Take stock of what you've been doing for the last 1, 2, 3 years.
Mate, it's useful to do that anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And you know yourself, and you're a big advocate of this, and you taught me this, is that, look, there's something very empowering of stop. If you're pointing the finger at everyone else and playing the victim, you're giving that power away. There's something really empowering of going, I fucked up. I've spent too much money. I'm where I am in life, financially, happiness, fitness, or business, because of the choices I've made up until this point in my life. So first thing, you're just taking stock of it's your fault, good or bad. And then second...
You know, it's mad you've said that, mate. I love that you said that. And I'm going to interrupt you here. Sorry for that. I do it all the time.
No, you do.
But I made a post on Facebook and I said, what's something that you do that makes your life harder than necessary? The amount of people that said, the government. I'm like, read the fucking question again. The government makes me life harder than necessary. I'm like, I didn't even ask that question. I didn't say what makes it. I said, what do you do? And I'm like, the question was about personal responsibility. And it's so easy, like you said there, to blame everybody else for what's happening in your life. It's easier than taking responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the first piece you've got is take responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. And then secondly, the easiest thing to do is just have an audit of what's going out. So do a spring clean of your direct debits and your standing orders.
No one wants to do it, do they?
But I can guarantee the shit in there, you don't know what you're paying.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something on there that you don't know what it is, just cancel it. And if it's important, they'll write to you or they'll contact you.
Isn't it weird that we avoid that, don't we? It's like, so I'm doing a time audit again right now, and I tell people all the time they're trying to grow the business, and I'm like, no, you're not. You're not getting done what you said you would do, or you're stuck because you don't know where your time's going. Like, I don't need to hire somebody that don't know what the role is, or I need an assistant. I'm like, you need to know what you're doing, and they never do the time audit because it reveals. It's same as money. It reveals what you're about.
Yeah.
It reveals
it
actually
exposes
where
you, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I say to people that are time poor, I'm like, people that say they're time poor can never tell me where it's gone. I'm like, well, where's it gone? Show me where it's gone, and they can't because they don't know. And that happens with money.
Exactly the same with people with money.
Yeah.
Like I predominantly deal with a lot of British expats based out in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. So people living in Dubai who earn very good money. Mm-hmm. Yet the amount of people that have been there 1, 3, 5, 10 years and have got either not got a pot to piss in, or they've not got anywhere near the amount that they should. Yeah. And the first thing I say to people is work out how much money you have actually spent since you've lived there. And when they do that, it's frightening. Frightening.
I thought Dubai was okay until I came back from Thailand. I was saying before. Spent 600 quid in 10 days in Thailand. I spent it in 2 hours in Dubai.
That's a dinner.
One meal. I had dinner with the kids at Asia. Sorry, Asia. Maybe you'll sponsor me next time. Eh? I'm turning into one of them fuckers. So we got that. And I think the next piece of that is I had a question in my head and it was amazing.
So, but no, back to you on about with the timesheet.
Yes.
Do exactly the same, but for money.
Yeah.
Do a budget.
Why do we not want to do it? Oh, here's what I was thinking. We don't want to do it because you get caught in this balance of you find out the facts versus how your feelings. And your feelings always get exposed when you think about the facts. Or I feel like this and I feel like that. I'm like, what? And that money tracking shows you the fucking facts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So keep a money diary, keep a track of what you're spending and where your money's actually going. And a lot of people, for that exact same reason, they're frightened of doing a budget or they won't do a budget. All a budget is doing, it's just you telling your money where to go instead of your money controlling you. That's it.
What are some, I was just thinking about this before when you were talking about it, beliefs around money. Because I think that a lot of people's money problems actually don't stem from the government or don't stem from, I think most people's money problems come from their beliefs around money. Like when I say what's money, you hear shit like, oh, it's the root of all evil or it doesn't grow on trees. I'm like, I learned a few years ago that money flows to value. And I heard Rob Moore is very opinionated about money, my friend Rob. And he says that money goes to value, but actually money goes to people that value money. The people that value the money the most tend to attract the most money. People that don't have any don't actually value it. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting concept, that. So what are some of the mindsets? It's a very random question. What are some of your beliefs around money that you think have got your head around it? That's, I think, what it is, isn't it? It's getting your head around money.
It is, but I think a lot of people hide behind that as well, of what's your money personality. My money personality trait, because there's a test you can do online, which basically put you in a box, of are you this, are you a saver, are you a spender, are you an investor, are you all these different sort of traits, or some do different colour codes, are you green, are you red, are you blue? And I think people hide behind that as an excuse again to go, well, this says that I'm X with money, therefore it's,
I love
it's
it when
not
people
my
say,
fault.
I had a conversation the other day that I loved with my friend Tom, and he was asking me about money box, right? And he was saying, I've moved it around and it's still down. I'm like, well, the number one thing with investing for me is you got to fucking leave it.
Yeah.
Stop fucking around with it. And then in the same sentence he said, oh, but money's not important to me. I'm like, stop saying that.
Yeah.
Stop saying that. I'm not driven by money. What? But you're moving money around money box, trying to
conversation about it with me.
You're trying to outguess the experts. You're trying to actually out-trade people that do it for a living. Just give them your money, let them make you money.
And I said this,
but at the same conversation, I'm like, you've just said you're moving all that around. You're spending all this time, and then you're saying, but I'm not driven by money. I hate it when people say that.
Yeah. And it's about time in the markets, not timing the markets. And I say that on a regular basis. And if you look at COVID, okay, so COVID, when the world ended, so in March.
I wish I'd invested in Zoom, by the way.
Well, I know.
Fucking hell. Took over the world, didn't it?
I think at one bit, Zoom was bigger than every US airline combined.
No.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
The value of Zoom was bigger than every single US airline combined.
Doesn't even matter. No one's came out to rival it yet. Have they?
You've got Microsoft Teams, you've got Google.
You have Google Meet.
I don't like them.
Zoom's still crushing them all. How? What's happening?
I don't know.
I reckon they're just buying all these fucking smaller companies that are trying to take them on and stealing all their ideas.
Probably.
Sorry, mate, I interrupted you. Let's look at COVID.
Yes, with COVID. So in March of that year, the stock market dropped by 40%. Which obviously you heard about all over the news when the world grew and everything else. What you didn't hear in the news is that if you remained invested in the global stock market from January to December that year, you'd have made 15%.
That's exactly what I made.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly the words and exactly that amount. That's mad.
And like I say, it just highlights it's not timing the market, it's about time in the market. And the only people that lost out that year are your DIY investors like your mate. Yeah. Who thought, right, I'll buy out and I'll sell back in at X, and it just doesn't work. Yeah. No one knows where the market's going to go in the short term.
Yeah.
So no one knows where the market's going to be in 6 months. The politicians don't know. The hedge fund managers don't know. The fucking your mate Dave down the local boozer, he
Definitely
certainly doesn't
don't know. No.
So just keep it invested, because over the medium to long term, they only ever go in one direction, which is up.
You know, if you're getting advice from anyone who's in the investing game, that's the number one thing. Leave the money, especially when it's going down.
Everyone's an expert though.
Leave it. It's mad, isn't it? But the real experts, all of them will have that same advice. Know where your money's going. Have a fucking audit and leave the money. Yeah. Leave it. Just leave it. Even when it's up, leave it.
Yeah, and continue investing.
Where else is it going to go? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, that's in there. I might put it somewhere else. Joe, what got you into the money game?
My brother playing Sunday League football.
Well, let's go.
So, I left school at 16.
Yeah.
I was always that kid at school that I picked things up really well as a kid. And like my dad had these aspirations of me going to college and university and being the first Woodhouse to ever go to uni, and then he wanted me to become a lawyer. But I fucking hated school. I got all my work done, but I worked out I was very good at retaining information. So the teachers hated me, because what I used to get all my work done as quick as possible.
And then distract everyone else.
And then stop everyone
Very
else
familiar.
from doing theirs.
Very familiar tale.
So I left school.
Trying to make everyone else laugh, fuck around,
and push every boundary possible. Yeah. I was never like a malicious kid. I was never nasty, but I'd find teachers' limits and keep trying to push it a little bit further, which was frustrating, Lauren. I'm sure you can imagine. But anyway, so I left school at 16, and I was going to college in the September. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was doing A-levels, and the only reason I was good at college because I had it drilled into me from a young age.
That's what you have to do.
From teachers and my dad. If you don't go to college, if you don't go to university, you're a bin man. Or you work on markets with me, because my old man's a market trader, sells second-hand bric-a-brac Sheffield Market.
Okay.
Which, I fucking hate.
Yeah.
So I weren't good at that.
Yeah.
So I wanted a good job. I didn't know what a good job was, but I wanted a good job, so I went to college. And then when I was, so I left school in the summer, and my mum was like, right, what are you going to do for a job? I'm like, I'm going to college.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're getting a part-time job. So... And this went on for 2 weeks. My mum and dad would go to work. My mum would kick me out of the house in the morning.
You have to pay board in that?
What's that?
Well, you're paying board in that? Paying board? Is that what you guys call it?
Yeah. Board money, yeah.
Board money, aye. 30 quid a week.
I got no money coming
I was earning 40 quid a week and paying 30 of it to me, ma.
My mum and dad used to take a third of my wages off me. So I very quickly learned art.
I was talking to the kids the other day, right? There was one point in my life where I had 3 jobs at the same time. I was an apprentice and I was on a YTS. So YTS was something like 100 quid a month for full-time work. And I'd go and work through the day. Then on a night time, I'd work in the local leisure centre, right? Cleaning the changing rooms and that. Cleaning saunas and steam rooms. Disgusting job, by the way. And then on a weekend, I'd work in a fucking bar on a night time.
See, I never had that, because when I started working at Lloyd's Bank, which I'm coming on to in a minute.
The bad part about working in the bars, I'd go and straight away, I'd go from the bar to a club and spend every penny that I just got cash on ease and booze. Like literally, it would. You know when people say it's burning a hole in my pocket, it wouldn't even make it in my pocket. Be straight. Is that fucking ridiculous? I'd work in a bar to pay for a night out in a club.
Yeah,
mental that. Anyway,
things to do.
Lloyd's Bank.
Yeah, so my mum was like, right, you need to get a job. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I used to go out every morning, pretend to go and find a job. Second day I went to work, I'd come back home and just sit and play on my PlayStation or whatever it were back then. And then a couple of weeks in, my mum was clearly moaning about me. One Sunday when my brother was playing football for a Sunday League team, and one of the other parents, one of the other mums, Julie, she was a bank manager. And she's like, I'll give him a job. Never met her. So my mum came home that day. She's like, right, I've got your interview at a bank. Her exact words were, do not fuck it up. And I was like, right, okay. So I went to this interview. Didn't know really what the job were. I actually took a mate with me to the interview. I weren't interested in getting a job.
You took your mate with you?
Yeah, 'cause we were in town.
Do you know what that reminds us of? Have you seen the movie Step Brothers before?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the first thing that popped up in my head. Amazing.
So I walked into this bank with a mate, and she pulled me to one side and she looked me up and down and she said, come here. And she took me in a room and she went, listen, I've promised your mother I'm going to give you a job. Drop the fucking cocky attitude. I know you switched on. You're getting this job. She went, go home and lie. I'm going to ring your mother now and told her I've given you the job. So if you lie to her, she'll know. I get out.
Shit.
And I walked out this bank. I was like, I've just got a job at a bank that I tried not to get. It was the weirdest situation ever. So anyway, started working Saturdays as a cashier at Lloyds Bank in Sheffield, and I just fell in love with it.
Really?
And yeah, mate, like I fell in love
Which
with
part of it?
talking to people.
Yeah.
So do you know, like, I think it's a little bit different now, but back then, you know what, nearly 20 years ago
You get
now,
people coming in every week from shops with
but
how
you
much
used to
cash
get
they've
the
taken
cashiers,
there.
didn't you, going,
Yes.
do you want an account upgrade? Do you want a credit card? Do you want a loan?
Yeah.
I was like a dog with a bone.
Really?
Yeah. And literally people would avoid me in the queue because they'd heard me pitching 5 or 6 people before them, so they'd wait for someone else before
Wait, did
me.
you get commission like?
Yeah, we used, I think it was £3 if I referred it on, I'd get £3 a sale or something like that, yeah. But
That's 2 bottles of WKD that in
much,
Sheffield.
Yeah. But I just developed this obsession for talking to people and sales, and then I read every sales book going, and so I sort of fell into it through that route. It could have easily been selling cars, it could have been selling mobile phones, it could have been anything, but I was lucky enough to fall into selling within a bank. And then the back of that, took all my exams, then started pestering from me being 17 to become an account manager and start doing the loans, doing the credit cards, doing the bank accounts myself. But legally, if you're not old enough to take a loan, you're not old enough to sell a loan either.
Shit. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does when you say it out loud, but I wouldn't have it at the time.
Yeah.
Pestered and I pestered and I pestered. And they kept putting obstacles in my way. Do these exams, then we'll do it. So I did them. Do this, hit this target, then we'll do it. And I did them. And then when I was 18, I then got the promotion to that, and then just sort of grew that way.
Yeah.
And fell into it that way.
We'll get back to the podcast in a second, but first I wanted to let you know about my world famous Unstoppable 28 coaching program. This is where you can work with me to master your emotions, upgrade your thinking, and take back control of your life. This is where you're going to learn about energy, you're going to learn about journaling, you're going to learn about transforming your emotional response, and you're going to learn about how to create a strong sense of purpose and live an electric life. Unstoppable28.com. And when did you make the decision to kind of do it for yourself? Was there anything that triggered that, or do you know what I mean? Because you're obviously self-employed now, right?
Yeah. So I've sort of been self-employed since I was 22. So when I was, my first mentor, if you want to call him that, guy called John Green, my best mate, best man at my wedding, or best man it is. He's 10. So John's got 10 years on me. And when I started working at the bank, 16, 17, 18, he was the guy with the Porsche. He was the guy with the nice house.
Top
He
G.
was like in his late 20s at the time.
Yeah.
Everyone loved him.
Yeah.
He was 6'4", big. So I mean,
Yeah.
massive presence about him. Not that I've ever been or ever will be anywhere near 6'4", but and I'm like, I want that. That's what I want. So I just pestered him, spent as much time around him as possible.
Yeah.
We then became good mates.
Yeah.
He then moved to Abu Dhabi, 2008, I think it was. And then 18 months later, he says, look, I've got a job. I want you to come out and work for me. And the rest is history, I suppose.
So
That's when I moved back to Abu Dhabi.
let's stay here. Because obviously how we met was through my program. You came to me.
Yep.
I remember you sent us the email. I thought you were full of shit. We'll get onto that. When did things start to unravel for you there? Because it unraveled a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
What was that process?
God, so...
Because it's not all sunshine and I left school.
No.
And
So
I
I
did
moved
this.
to Abu Dhabi when I was 22.
Yeah.
And overnight started earning more money than I could ever imagine.
And back then, Abu Dhabi must have been a bit Wild West.
It wasn't as bad as people thought. No one had heard of it. Like the amount of people I'd say, I'm moving to Abu Dhabi. And they're like, oh, is that in Wales? No, not quite.
Next to Aberystwyth.
Yeah.
Aberystwyth.
Yeah. But it's always been like 10 years behind Dubai.
Yeah.
But I loved it. Like, I absolutely love the place. And went out there, early 20s, more money than I can imagine. And I turned into a bit of a dick, like in my early to mid 20s.
Who hasn't, man? Who hasn't?
Yeah. But I stopped looking at things as money as well, which is a fucking dangerous game to go down. I started looking at things as another deal or another client. So I started looking at sort of expensive things as, well, I just need to work a bit harder next week and I'll make it back.
Yeah.
So I stopped giving things a monetary value. I mean, I was earning money. My account was still increasing. Luckily, I was still doing well.
Yeah.
Without really thinking about it. and practicing what I actually preach to people. And what brought me down with a bang was we changed companies. The new company wasn't quite what I expected. I didn't earn money for, I think, 6 months with this new company. And at the time, Laura and I were going through IVF in Abu Dhabi because we couldn't have kids naturally, which is an expensive hobby out there because there's no NHS, there's no funding, nothing. Yeah. And I very quickly then ran out of money. And we've already spoken about this already, so like victim mentality, and that for me were a massive wake-up call because I was like, this company's shit, the market's shit at the minute, I'm not earning money, why me, why can't we have kids, it's costing me 20 grand a throw for this IVF, why, and it were only when I eventually took stock and looked back, I was like, hang on, Joe, you spent all this money for the last 5 years. I'm not going to say the figure because it's frightening. You spent all this money for the last 5 years. You've got a massive...
What have you spent it on?
I've got a 4-bedroom detached house with ceilings. Each room was the size of this building. We've got 2 flash cars on the drive. I'd got a personal driver. We'd got an housemaid. We'd got this insane lifestyle. One of the separate living rooms we got in the house, I kitted out as a full bar. And I'm talking like a proper English bar. Bear in mind we're renting this house.
Oh, well,
I didn't own it.
The pulleys.
Mate, I got a bar half size of this room. Every optic you can imagine. Spent a fortune on all these sports pitches. I was just spending my money
Memorabilia.
on shit. Yeah,
Shit.
I've got all sorts. It were insane. But it were only when I actually realised that this is what I've actually been doing this last 5 years. But when like I said, that for me was a big wake up call, and sort of was a big turning point. From a financial standpoint anyway, of sort of taking responsibility and being a bit more structured and sort of getting to where I am now with it. But in terms of, what was the question about struggling? When did it start
unraveling for you? So that was...
I thought about this the other day, right? So the quick answer is when my mum died in 2021, 2 years ago. However, looking back, I think I had a few panic attacks in my mid-20s. Like, I've always been a really sociable person. I've always liked to be the loudest person in the room, the centre of attention. And there were a couple of sales meetings we had where there were like 50 people in a room. And I started sweating. And I then start shaking. And then literally like burning up and just losing and just had to get out of the room. It was the weirdest thing, to the point where the first time it happened, I didn't know what were going off, ran into the toilets next to the meeting room, purposely put my fingers down my throat to make myself throw up, so everyone in the meeting room could hear that I'd thrown up.
Oh, shit.
So I could then make an excuse up. I was sick.
Shit. Okay, I get it. Aye.
And it was only when I sat back after, I'm like, that was insane what you've just done. But I couldn't work out didn't know what it were, couldn't work out what it were or anything. And I also weren't sleeping very well at the time because I'd never been a great sleeper. And knowing what I know now, looking back now, I think it was sort of an amalgamation. Is that word?
Word. Amalgamation
of money problems, stresses at work, new company, IVF, and just everything else going on. It happened twice actually. And back then, I actually spoke to a psychologist, therapist, I don't know whatever they call them. And the first thing she wanted to do is put me on these tablets, which I've always been very anti, rightly or wrongly, just because I've seen what they've done to people around me.
Yeah, you know what's mad, Joe? It's mad that you've said that. I was talking to my mum about this yesterday. Someone sent me an article. It was Joe Dispenza's been talking about it on one of his courses where he's like, actually, what the found is now, and it's like proven, is that the only thing that antidepressants work for is as a placebo. Like, they actually don't change any brain chemistry. They just work as a placebo. And they did a massive study where, and again, this is not me being a doctor. Don't take this as medical advice. Seek out medical advice. Where they tested, it was a lot of people where they said he has an actual antidepressant, he has a placebo, and they both got the same results. Isn't that mad?
Yeah.
Isn't that mad? I just think I'm on this at the minute. I'm like, fucking hell, that's how powerful Think about this. That's how powerful your brain is. That's how powerful your thoughts are.
And
they said that just thinking you were taking something that benefited your mental health. Isn't that insane?
Yeah. And this was always scared me because I've come to realise over the years what I think is common sense isn't very common. And I'm quite good at solving problems, and I would like to think I'm very sharp when it comes to solving issues and thinking outside the box with stuff. And I were always super paranoid that any sort of tablet, drug, anything like that would dull that and numb that. And I didn't want to lose that edge. Which is why... Like,
well, I lost that edge. Fuck me. Jesus. I get where you're coming from there. I lost that edge.
Yeah.
Zombie.
So yeah, the first one I met, I literally spent an hour with her, and I walked in and said, listen, don't prescribe me a drug, so I won't take them.
Yeah.
And if you try, I'll not come back. And lo and behold, at the end of the hour, she's like, well, I think you should. And I'm like, listen, I'm not coming back here again. And that with that, packed that in. Then sort of flash forward.
So this is before your mum died, this?
Oh, yeah, this should have been what? 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
And then it didn't go away. I just sort of ignored it, pushed it to a side. We then had a few more years in the Middle East, moved back to Abu Dhabi.
Fat Joe in Abu Dhabi?
Oh, very Fat Joe was in Abu Dhabi, yeah.
Joe posted something on his Instagram, and I didn't know this, but Fat Joe, Jesus. It doesn't even look like you. And I mean, I know you've got hair in it and that, but... Like,
well, I were holding on, weren't I? Let's be honest.
You're clinging on. It was more like, I see your hair, it was Velcro.
Don't blow it too hard.
So that was where Fat Joe was in.
Yeah.
Fat Joe was in, not looking after your health.
No, because, again, I were victim with it, weren't I? Because I were flying all around the Middle East, we work, living out of hotels 4 days a week.
And you're in that game, you entertain clients and that, don't you? Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But it were more, I've not got time to eat right, and I've not got time for breakfast in the morning. So what I used to do, I used to stay in these hotels, didn't have breakfast, get up, work, meetings straight away, all day, wouldn't eat, just drink coffee all day, cafe lattes all day, which is probably about 300 calories each. So I were eating, to be fair. But then I'd come to like 3, 4 o'clock, absolutely starving, driving around Saudi Arabia between meetings, like, right, KFC, stop, go into KFC, because I was that hungry at that point. I'd get 2 meals, literally wolf these KFC down, sat in the car, back in the car, more meetings, get back to the hotel at night. It gets to 10, 11 o'clock at night, starving again. So I'd raid the minibar, I'd go downstairs and just eat crap.
Yeah.
And that was what I was doing 4 days a week. Then because I were away 4 days a week in Saudi Arabia, I'd then come back, then go on the piss all weekend in Abu Dhabi, because I'd not seen Laura, I'd not seen my mates. So I like this release.
And you want to let off some steam after all that.
Yeah. And it just 1 kilo turned into 5 kilo, turned into 10 kilo, turned into at my worst, I was 120 kilo.
Fuck me.
Bear in mind, I'm 5'9".
Shit.
And half.
Big Joe. Big round Joe.
Yeah, I look like I swallowed a beanbag.
Jeez.
Like a bag of soup.
Swallowed like a bag of soup. And what did you say was the wake up call around that then? Was that a photo or was it a...
So boys were born 2018, and I don't want to be a fat dad, but I'll do it next week. Then, but they were born, they had 2 weeks in Nickel, which was a horrible experience, but I'll wait till they're out of hospital. Then they weren't, then obviously the sleepless nights start. I'll wait till they're sleeping. Then I'll wait till this, then I'll wait for that, and it never happened. But it went back in my mind at this point. I'm like, I need to change, but I just never did. And then my mum, summer of 2019, I'll never forget the phone call. I was driving in Dubai. My mum phoned me. She's like, are you driving? I'm like, yeah. She went, pull up. I'm like, what's up? She went, just pull up and ring me back. I'm like, what is wrong? She went, just pull up and ring me back. And that when she told me she got cancer. Fucking hell. So we then came back for the summer.
What's your immediate thought? I've never dealt with this. When she tells you that?
I don't think I did. I fobbed it off because my mum's a bit of a hypochondriac.
Ah, okay.
So I'm like, they've told you you've got cancer, or she's like, more, they found a lump. I'm like, we've not got cancer then. Well, they've said come back next week. And it was like this 4 week progression of It was horrendous, mate. So we found a lump, come back for a biopsy. Did the biopsy, come back for the results. But when they did the biopsy, like, right, bring someone with you. That's what they said to her. So, and it were at that point, my mum phoned me.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, but they've not said you've got cancer. It might not be. Yeah, it's cancer, Joe. It's cancer. I've got cancer. I'm like, Mum, it might not actually. Anyway, so we had this. So I sort of pushed it aside.
Yeah.
Then they went for the test and it was cancer. Then they did another biopsy the week after that. It was stage 3, which is serious but treatable. I'm like, well, that's good. And then the week after that, she got a phone call saying we've done another test on it and it's stage 4.
Fuck.
You're going to die.
Shit.
And
then what's your mind doing here?
I threw my phone in a canal. I found out. I were at Laura's mum's. So this was summer 2019. Laura had been unhappy in the Middle East for about 6 months. We've got the boys now. The boys are 1.
Yeah.
The last 6 months, because I were then back and forth again, flying around. She's like, look, Joe, I'm a single parent 3 days a week, 3-4 days a week. Like, something's got to change.
Yeah.
I want to go home. I've had enough.
This is the same story that I had.
Yeah. So I tried talking around because I was like, no, my business is here. I can't leave, all this. She's like, well, can't you do it from the UK? And I'm like, so we were 70% there. I said, look, what we'll do, we'll try it for 3 months and see how it works. But if it don't work, we're coming back.
Yeah.
And she agreed, but I think secretly she was like, I ain't coming back. And then at that time as well is when I found out my mum got cancer and it was terminal.
Yeah.
So we then made a decision of, look, we'll come back to the UK. And this sounds really bad, but heaven forbid, when my mum passes, if we hate it here, nothing then stops us going back. Yeah. But we don't want to miss that time with my mum in the meantime and for everything, what if?
Yeah.
So we came back. We came back and, like I said, found out it was stage 4 terminal. There's nothing they can do for it. So I found that out, that it was stage 4 cancer. My head went completely. Yeah. And then call it fate, call it a sign, call it whatever you want. When I then got a new phone, because my phone had been launched in a canal, turned the phone on. The first message I got was from a guy called James Goff, who's a good mate of mine now, who's a online coach, fitness trainer. Basically just cold DM'd me saying, do you want to get your shit in order? I specialise in helping busy professionals like yourself. He clearly goes on Facebook finding fat cunts to target, right?
I only typed in Fat Joe.
Yeah. I was the second one on the list.
He's looking for the song, he's looking for the rap. Hi, Fat Joe. What's love?
So he messaged me and I said, right, give me a call. And he would give me all the pitch. I'm like, just send me a payment link and I'll pay it. He's like, yeah, but what about? I'm like, just send me the payment link before I change my mind.
Mad that something like that can trigger a response like that.
Yeah. And the attitude I got at that time was that she'd had that choice taken away from her. She couldn't help it. She's going to die. And in my eyes, I mean, I was bad. Like, I was out of breath climbing stairs. Like, I could only lift kids so high because my arms didn't go a certain way above me. Oh, mate, it was horrendous. I were really bent out of shape. Yeah. Really bad. So I just had the view of she's had that choice taken away from her. I'm not going to waste mine. And I want to see my kids grow up. Then I started on my, I hate the wanky phrase, but fitness journey. But for me, it was changing habits. So it was changing daily habits. So it were just simple to start with, getting steps in every day. It were trying to get a good night's sleep, which I've never been great at sleeping. Yeah, me neither. It were monitoring my food, what I'm eating, and it were training, resistance training. At the time, I think I was doing 4 days a week. I do 5 now. But it was just getting in this habit with it, and I fell in love with it. I've always trained on and off, but yeah, really like getting a proper routine with it. Going into a gym, having a program, and knowing I've got to do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and then next week going in and trying to beat those numbers again.
Mate, what's mad? Your background in finance and numbers and that probably is that kind of fits with your. Well, I've got this plan. I've got to get this number into here. I've got to hit this number next. I've done that number there. That probably helped you a ton, I bet.
Yeah, a
like
bit.
subconsciously.
I'm competitive as well. Like I boxed as a kid growing up, so I were always like super fit until I went to Abu Dhabi and then started boozing, and then started eating way too much, and that's when it all started ballooning on.
Yeah. And at what point then? How did you find out about my book?
Through James Smith.
Oh, really?
Well, no, sorry, that's a lie. I found out through your book, through your social media, but I followed you through
Smith,
through James Smith. And
where were you at then in your life then? Like, where was that? Was that after your mum had died?
Yeah, so like, we came back. We ended up coming back. So this was summer 2019. We came back January 2020.
Great timing.
Well, yeah. And for us, COVID were a massive blessing. Yeah. Even though it actually ended up killing my mum in the end. I'll come on to that in a minute. But because I were doing 2 weeks UK, 2 weeks travelling around Middle East. I fucking hated it, man. But talking to Zoom again, like, I'd been using Zoom for a good 12 months before anyone knew what Zoom were. I knew it inside out, upside down, on its head. Yeah. But trying to educate my clients to using Zoom, who'd been used to seeing me and having FaceTime with me and having a coffee with me for the last 4 years, I used to get, well, when are you out here next? I'm like, 2.5 weeks. Don't worry, Joe, I'll wait. I'm not in a rush. Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't really help me with my targets and my bills. And what it actually ended up doing is turning like that 2 week trip I was traveling. I was in 20-hour days, not sleeping.
Like, you were having to squeeze as much as you could into that time.
So the 3 days before I went, I was vile, like horrible.
Because you didn't want to go.
Didn't want to go. Didn't want to leave the kids. Didn't want to leave Laura. I was that stressed because I knew I'd be that busy, and I wouldn't sleep for 2 weeks. And then after I came back,
you were fucking
another 4 days where I'd be like a zombie.
Yeah.
And I'd want to get pissed. Yeah. Because I'd been in Saudi Arabia for 2 weeks. It were horrendous. But then, like, one of these business trips, if a meeting moves what should be business, potentially that's another month before I can speak to that person again, because if I can't fit them in that 2 weeks, it's then my next trip. And it was so stressful on so many parts. And then COVID, which then overnight, everyone got used to working.
Everyone had to handle Zoom,
Yeah. And I was very, very well prepared. Not prepared for COVID. Nobody knew, did they? Yeah. But I had systems in place what I'd been trying to graft out for a year, which just slotted in.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were forced to, rather than you trying to convince them to do it, it was like, well, this is just how it is now.
Yeah.
Talk me about
so
COVID and your mum.
That was difficult because we couldn't see her. Even though we come back to spend time with her, we couldn't see her. And my mum had got the attitude of, through the pandemic, this was 2020, my mum had got the attitude of, I don't give a shit, I'm going to die. I want to see my grandkids.
Oh, okay.
But me and Laura got the attitude of,
I don't want to speed that up.
I couldn't.
You don't want to make you sick.
I couldn't imagine if, and this when we knew not a lot about COVID. This is when we've seen the videos of the Chinese people dropping dead in the streets, right? Yeah. This was when I used to go for a dog walk, and I used to take a dog shit bag and open the gate with it because I daren't touch the gate, sort of thing.
Hell,
Oh, mate, got it made for a good couple of months. Yeah. Until I got COVID and realised it weren't as bad as they made out.
Mate, it's mad. I think about some of them things where you were like, you only allowed out once a day.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. You couldn't sit down on a park bench.
Yeah.
You had to wear a mask to stand up, but if you're sitting down, it's okay. You can't eat inside unless it's inside a fucking tent.
Yeah, everyone did. Just put tents outside.
Mad, innit? Yeah, it's a mad time. So that was a difficult.
Yeah. So we were having sort of disagreements with my mum on that. She's like, I don't care. And I'm like, but mum, we do, because if you catch something off us and something happens to you, I'm like, I'll never be able to live with myself. Yeah. So that was through 2020. Then obviously it got a bit looser, didn't it? Back end of 2020, we started seeing her then. And then she was having chemo all the way through. Her cancer then started getting a lot more aggressive. Yeah. And then in end of Feb 21, she then went into hospital. It was breast cancer, but it spread to her bones. It spread, and every time they did another test, it's now spread here. Oh, it's now spread here. It was a super aggressive type, triple negative something or other breast cancer. It was. and it had spread to, I can't remember which one of her organs it had spread in, and she went in the hospital to have this organ removed or part removed, or have some of the cancer taken out to sort of slow down the spread. And while she was in hospital, she caught COVID and never came out.
Oh shit!
Which was horrendous. We couldn't go and see her because it was at early 2021. So my mum spent the last 2 weeks on her own in a hospital bed.
Hardcore.
And then one day out of the blue, and it got to the stage where we were getting weird calls off her.
Yeah.
So like she phoned me one day, like, and my mum's, like, she was really aggressive with me one day on the phone.
Yeah.
Then she phoned me 20 minutes later, like as if she completely forgot the conversation we just had.
Yeah.
And so we were ringing the hospital, and I know they're busy, but no doctors would speak to us. We were getting third-hand information.
Yeah.
What didn't help, my mum's got 2 sisters who adore her, and obviously my nan. So there's all of us ringing the hospital. No one would go, everyone stop. We'll have one point of contact. Like, you don't think at the time, do you? Everyone's like, I need to find out. So we're all pecking the hospital's head, which I'm guessing pissed them off even more.
Well, then you've also got to think all of the patients have got all of those amount of people pecking their head as well. Yeah. So
we weren't getting the information back. Whenever the doctors did speak to us, they're telling us one thing, but then my mum's telling us another. So it's like, right, what's right? And then my dad got a phone call out of the blue one day saying, you can come in and see her. So he phoned me up, this is amazing. I'm like, and I didn't say to him, but I'm like,
it's not really, is it?
Doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So my dad went in to see her, and then he phoned me the next day saying, I'm in seeing her again. They've basically said that that's it. And then I got a phone call 4 a.m, about 4 a.m. the next morning saying, we've had the call. I'm like, what do you mean the call? He's like, the call. My brother will phone me, actually. Yeah. So we went in, and we were sat with my mum for an hour. She was right as rain. Yeah. She was happy. And then my dad said, why don't you two get off? Because they were me, my dad and my brother in the room with her. Yeah. She, why don't you two get off? There's nothing we can do. She's fine. Which I took as a hint that he wanted to be on his own with you. Yeah. So we then left, went to my nan. We drove straight to my nan's, where my aunties were. And then I was there 5 minutes, and we got a call saying, get back now. Yeah, and I literally held my mum's hand when she died.
I mean, maybe you could not have been there.
Yeah.
What would be your advice then? Because there's bound to be someone in here who's going through that or will go through that in their life. What would be some of your advice on dealing with that? I've never dealt with death at all.
I didn't deal with it very well.
Did you not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of my questions was, and I thought it was a bit of a mad question. I didn't ask it. It was in my head. I'm going to say it now. Was, what would you have done differently?
God.
It sounds like during it, you were actually doing all right. You were dealing with it well. You were supportive. Yeah.
I think my mum didn't. She didn't. I don't think. Whether she didn't know.
Yeah.
Or whether she didn't want to tell me the full extent of just how bad it was.
Yeah.
But I sort of like just kept pushing it aside. Like, I knew she was going to die one day.
Yeah.
But we're all going to die one day. Like that's. Do you know what I mean? Like it didn't seem real.
Yeah. Until it was.
Until it was. Yeah. And then after that, funeral to plan. I was busy doing that.
Yeah.
We sorted all that out.
Yeah.
I spoke at my mum's funeral, which was difficult, but I'm glad I did. Then after all that was sorted and business were going really well, I just took an attitude of, do you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to work for 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm just going to spend time with my family. Family matters more than anything. I'm going to spend time with my family, which was the worst thing I could have done. Because I'd gone, not spending time with family, but I'd gone from this routine.
I get it.
to doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the kids, you just had the boys at this point, right?
Yeah.
So you just had the boys, like, what do you do with them when they're that young?
Yeah. But it was still COVID, and Laura was heavily pregnant as well.
Yeah.
With Aubrey.
Yeah.
So we couldn't do anything, go anywhere, couldn't see anything. And I just spiraled, like, completely. I was just angry. I was snappy. I was vile to Laura and kids. Dogs were frightened to death of me. I walk in room, dogs would cower.
Oh, shit.
I just couldn't control my emotions at all. And that was when I was like, right, something needs to change now. So I reached out to a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist. All right, I'll try it again.
Yeah.
And I actually spoke to two. And they just made me... What I didn't like about them, I'm very logical. So for me, the quickest route from A to B is a straight line.
Yeah.
Show me what to do and I'll do it. Simple as that. Whatever it is, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I'd be speaking to these therapists, and it was like they were making excuses for me. Yeah. And they'd be like...
That's interesting.
And I'd be like, I called my wife a cunt this morning.
Yeah.
Well, there are extenuating circumstances that have led you to this point. I'm like, but I called my wife a cunt. Like, I shouldn't do that. But yeah, but it's not your fault. I'm like, it is my fault.
Yeah, because I said it.
I am the one that said it.
Yeah.
Well, but what you need to think, and I'm like, no, and it like they were trying to excuse me behaviour.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I'm like, look, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
See, and I suppose what they're trying to get across, I think, is like this is why you're doing it. But you probably already knew that. This is what, okay, I get why I'm doing it, but how do I fucking stop doing it?
Yeah. But at the time, I didn't care why we were doing it.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to stop.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever it is, I don't care. Just show me the answer and I'll do it. Just help me get from A to B as quickly as possible. And again, I started the same thing with them. Do not try prescribing me anything at all, because I'll never speak to you again.
Yeah.
No, I won't do that, and all this. So, and because I like to commit to stuff, I think I paid for 3 months block booking. I'm like, right, I'm in for 3 months.
Yeah.
I had the first session with them, the first one. I had second session with them, and then they started talking about meds. So I just didn't see him again. I just ghosted him, then blocked him. And then they chased him. Well, what about all your bottom? I don't care about the money. Just keep it. I'm not speaking to you again. I actually, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Then the second one I had, it was just this American guy.
Do you think at this point you had a bit more preconceived ideas because you'd had 2 experiences where you're like, oh, this is not for me?
I still thought I'd try it. I don't know if the third guy was actually a psychiatrist as such. I think he was like a life coach, high performing, whatever it is, whatever they want to call him. Whatever you guys call yourselves these days.
Fuck you. Do not put me in that category.
But again, he was very...
my own category,
he was very thoughts and feelings, and he was very much like... And he sat there with his check shirt on, fucking elbow patches on, glasses, sat behind his... Because he was on Zoom, sat behind his computer. And...
You have a mullet? Sounds like you'd have a mullet.
Oh, glasses on, like typical, like, psychiatrist look sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm chatting away to it. and I don't know if it's my own paranoia. I convinced myself he were on Facebook while he were talking to me.
Really?
And he weren't paying attention. He probably were.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting.
I just lost it with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't like you. I can't relate to you. And it was the same. They were just like, they were trying to make excuses for
mollycoddling.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. I felt like I was getting mollycoddled. I needed someone to wake us the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what essentially brought me to you, because I've been following your content for a while. And then I was going camping with kids, actually. I was taking the boys camping that weekend. First and last time I've been camping. Realised I like 5-star hotels better than a tent and shitting in a communal toilet.
Yeah.
But, and downloaded your audiobook and then listened to half it on the way there, half it on the way back. And I basically just cried most of the way through it.
Oh, shit. Because you related to them.
Oh, mate, it like resonated with me so much. And that's when I just had the decision of...
You sent us the maddest email I've ever got. So, before we get on to the mad email, one of the maddest emails I've ever got, right? It certainly got me attention. You seem to be a guy that is very... spots a problem, looks for a solution. I think more people need to be like that. Because all of this has been like, I've got a problem. I fuck up for a little bit. I jumble around for a little bit. I scramble around for a little bit. But then I take fast action and then I take the action. I find someone who can help me with this. Because every one of these, you'd be like, well, I found someone that can help me.
Yeah.
So you've done that every single time here. We've got John. We've got your mum's friend that helped you get the job.
Like
you've got your mum's friend that helped you get the job. You've got John that helped you get the job.
Yeah.
You've got out of shape, found a PT, and then you've got where we're on to now. Like at numerous points, you've been like, right, I'm in a pickle. I can't believe I've just said that. I'm in a pickle. Wow. I fucked up. I'm in a pickle. Wow. I'm in a pickle. Right. Okay. How am I gonna fix it? And who can help me fix it? I've noticed that you've just got that theme all the way through. Think more people need to be like that.
Yeah, I've never been frightened of asking for help. And I've always had I suppose that goes from me being a sort of young kid, really.
Yeah.
When I boxed growing up, I always looked up to the pros in the gym, and most of them, a couple got to like English, British level, a few Central Area titles, but none of them really sort of made insane levels.
Yeah.
I worshipped them. I worshipped all the older guys, want to be them, want to copy them.
Yeah.
So I think I've always tried moulding myself around. I've always seen what I want, and sort of tried mirroring and copying that.
Yeah. So we'll get back to the podcast in a second, but first, I wanted to tell you about a brand new Telegram channel that I have. Inside of this channel, no spam, just regular, almost daily voice notes where I'll give you some powerful tips, strategies, and tools to level up your thinking. All you have to do is, if you're on YouTube, you'll see on the screen a QR code. If you're on Spotify, you'll see the link in the description. Or you can just search for me on the Telegram app. Let's get back to it. I think that's a powerful
and
thing.
Trying to extract as much information.
One of the first
as possible.
things I learned about personal development was Robbins was like the fastest way to get to where you want is find someone that's already there and ask them. Like it's fast. Yeah. It's fast. So the email that I get from Joe, I think I got an email, I think I got a Facebook message, I think I got an Instagram message, and I think I got a LinkedIn message. I thought you were full of shit. And it was something like, I thought you were full of shit. Because obviously the podcast, Paul Mort Talk Shit. I thought you talk shit or something. And then it was like, I read your book, don't care what it costs, I'm in. I was like, all right, let's go. And then the rest history. Talk to me about some of the other changes that you've made, because I remember when you first came in, you wanted in at the top level, which was more business, but you were the first person that was like, actually, Paul, I need less help with business and more help with this other stuff.
Yeah.
So back then it was, what are some of the changes that you've made in terms of that? Because I know you've had a big change family-wise as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
And time.
Yeah. So I went through, I well and truly hit the fuck it button that summer before I reached out to you. I was going boozing way too much. I was going AWOL, and I was just vile to be around to my kids.
You did the eat out to help out.
What's that?
You did the eat out to help out. Remember that?
I did eat out to help out as well.
In a tent.
Yeah.
That was the closest you ever came to camping again, I bet.
Yeah, never again.
Mocky. It's wild, that, isn't it? That was the thing.
Oh, mate, but I did what I always do with everything. I went to, what's the big...
XS.
What's the big camping stores? Go outdoors.
Shit, I go outdoors.
Walked in, I'm like, right, I need your biggest tent. I need all the equipment.
The Berghaus gear.
Yep, Berghaus tent I got with the 3 bedrooms in it. Right, I spent $3,000 on camping gear.
No.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Spent $3,000 on camping gear. We've been once.
Shit, that's wild. The last time I did it was actually
it was
right next. Actually, mate, it was right next to you. Man, I was texting you. I'm driving through this town. It's weird as fuck. You're like, that's right next to me. It was what Nina decided she wanted to sleep in the back of my Jeep, right? So I was like, right, how can we do this? And I was like, well, Sunderland are playing Sheffield United away, so I got tickets for Sheffield United. We went to sleep in this. Went to sleep in the back of the car, and I bought Nina bought with her own money. She bought a stove that we could cook on. She bought camping chairs. She bought a mattress, a blow-you-up mattress. She bought all the food and that with her own money, bless her. And we went to get in the car after the game. We drove from the game to the campsite. The campsite was closed. We couldn't get in. They locked the gate. So we went to sleep like at the gate of the campsite, right? In the pitch, in a country lane we were sleeping. And so we set it all up and that. And we got in the back of the Jeep, and the blow-up bed bust straight away. So we ended up driving to fucking, I think, Rotherham and getting in a Holiday Inn instead. And we've never been back to sleep in the car. We've got a good story though.
Yeah.
I'll always remember her laughing so hard because we're lying on this thing and it's just going, and she's just screaming. I'll never forget that now. But camping's not for me either. Nah. So you're going at it hard that summer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about these changes then. Because I think this is I think this is packed for people, this part.
Yeah, so biggest changes for me are, I've always been one for accountability. So biggest change is having the accountability, having to check in myself, holding me accountable, not just to my own standards, but to yours as well.
So talk to me about some of those standards you raised then. Talk to me about what you did, what you actually did.
It was more getting a grip on my emotions.
Yes.
And sort of what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. Big part of that was journaling. Which, when I try explaining this to people, I sound like a 12-year-old girl.
It needs a different name.
It does need a
different name. I call it prompted journaling, because essentially, and this is what I love about it, and I'd love to explain this concept that I'm obsessed with this at the minute, is this concept of prompted journaling. Is essentially your brain's always asking questions. So, and this is what's amazing about a placebo, right? I will ask you a question. Your brain will look for references. It'll find a photo. It doesn't even have to be you that's done it either. So it'll find a reference in your head, a memory, or something projected in the future. It'll show you a picture of it mentally, and then your brain will produce neuropeptides, right, around this feeling, answer this question that you've asked yourself, and then it'll send these neuropeptides down your spinal cord to the hormonal centers, and you get a feeling. And I'm like, I think that's amazing. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Why aren't people teaching this? Why aren't people sharing it? Why do kids not know about this? Yeah. And that starts with a question. Like, it's people aren't even aware of it. That starts with waking up with a question. So, mate, when people come to me and they start saying, I feel like this and I feel like that and I feel this and I feel shit and the first question I ask them is, how do they want to feel? And here's the mad part is, they can't even answer the question. Because it's mad when you start asking how I want to feel. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what makes you feel like that? And then they'll start feeling like that just by saying they want to feel like that. Yeah. It's mad.
I've realised that my brain enjoys, and I'm very good at, I love solving problems. And again, I was thinking about this the other day. I think that goes all the way back to my childhood as well. Because as a kid, I was obsessed with, the Mensa puzzle books.
Yes.
My dad used to buy me them, and I used to be obsessed with him as a kid.
Really?
Oh, man, I used to fly through them. Like, loved solving problems, solving puzzles, building stuff, taking stuff apart. And same with my work as well. Essentially, that's what I do every day. Someone comes to me with a problem. Sometimes they don't even know they've got a problem, and I help them solve it with their financial plan.
And what you see is, and this is I hope you're going to get this, but what you have is something visual.
Yeah.
Because you can't solve those numbers problems in your head, really. Yeah. You need to see it.
Yeah.
And is this what you're saying about
journaling? Yeah. So I'm very visual with stuff like that. But what I've found is, if I don't give my brain problems to solve, it creates problems.
Yep. That's called anxiety. That's called anxiety.
Yeah.
That's how people create so much anxiety. I say this about health anxiety all the time. I'm like, what do you got going on in your life? Well, nothing. So your brain's just looking for, health anxiety for me is no different to any other kind of anxiety. It's just that's how it shows up.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of stick for this, but I'm like, well, actually, you're not born anxious. You start to create anxiety as your life shrinks. So the more open my life is, the wider my circle is, the wider my frame of reference is, the wider my and he calls it a divergent thing. He calls it, Joe Dispenza calls it a divergent vision. Like, I've got loads going on. I'm seeing loads of people. I'm doing loads of shit. And then as we get older, it's like, for most people, that this vision or this focus, he calls it divergent focus, actually starts to converge and starts to become smaller. And you start to make up all these problems that don't exist. And I'm like, well, actually, it's almost a symptom of having nothing else going on in your life. Not going after enough shit, not solving enough problems, not having a sense of purpose. So your brain's like, well, what can I worry about?
Yeah. And it used to get me worse middle of the night. So I'd wake up at 2 a.m, wide awake. And
it's always worse then. Everything's always worse when it's dark.
You've not done this, you've not done that. You need to sort this. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Yeah. So what I find journaling actually does, in the morning, it sort of steers my brain where to go.
Yes.
It tells my brain what to look for with things like, who are you going to help today? What's good with this part of your day today?
Yeah. Who do you need to follow up with?
Yeah. And my favourite one is, what problems could you face today?
People don't like answering that question, Not interesting. People don't. They're like, oh, it makes me feel negative. I'm like, yeah, but it's also real.
9 times out of 10, it's my kids playing.
Mine's food. Mine's food. What could stress me out today? Food. Or it's like, what could stress me out today? Some cunt on the internet. But what the reason I love that question is because those things are probably going to happen, and you'll respond to them unconsciously. You'll just do what you've always done.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, this is making me conscious of what I might unconsciously react to. So now, because I've woken up to it in the morning, I've woken up to that fact that could happen. I'm not going to deal with it in the way that I always deal with it. I mean, I might, but at least I've got something else where I'm like, oh, I predicted this would happen. So, and here's who I said I would be. Yeah. I love that. Who did you say you would be when things got hard? Who did you say you would be when someone said something nasty to you?
And joking aside, that is actually what I sort of put on a regular basis with the kids, because that was one of the main reasons I came to you initially. Was kids would do X, I'd fucking explode. And
so what do you think then? Because this is very common. It doesn't even have to be kids. It could just be reactions. What are some of the things then? You mentioned journaling that. What do you believe has helped you handle that? What do you think reacting. Yes.
So first thing I do is try and keep as much time between myself and the actual trigger itself. So take a deep breath without reacting first of all. Think of the outcome that I want. And then also try and put myself in their shoes. And when I'm doing that with 4-year-old...
It's funny that we've talked about that this morning, isn't it?
Yeah, when I'm doing that with a 4-year-old, he's a fucking kid.
I think that all the time when people come to me with kids with that challenges with their kids. Of course they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, you're someone that pushed the boundaries with teachers and that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a mad thing because that all sounds really easy to say, oh, people take a deep breath. But I think for me, it's just practice. And I think what people expect is like an instant shift. Oh, I was reacting and now I'm not. There's loads of bits in between that. I'm like, when you first start, just notice, most people don't even know they're doing it. So just knowing that you're doing it, it's actually a win. That's like, if we talk about, you kick off straight away as being A and Z is, I'm Zen, right? Yeah. There's fucking, how many numbers between that? I don't know. How many numbers in the alphabet? We should.
Cut this bit out.
H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P. No, it's 28, I'm guessing. So, 28. But there's 28. Can you see how there's 28 bits between that? So B might be, oh shit, yeah, I'm aware I'm doing it now, just knowing. C might be next time you apologize really quickly. Because I'm like, if I ever kick off, I apologize really quickly. Really quickly. Because I'm human. Do you know what I mean? I can't just go from this to that. I can't get from A to Z in a day. Especially the longer I'm practiced at it. So you might have 30 odd years of being a reactive fucker, right? You're not going to fix it in a week or 2 weeks. I'm like, and it's also a lifetime thing. I've got to keep doing this forever. So I think the first step is awareness. The second step is, okay, I'm catching myself now. I'm getting a little bit, and then you catch it a bit faster, and then you'll catch it a bit faster, and then you'll catch it a little bit faster. And then one day you might display characteristic C again, because, and again, this is a big influencer in it, me, I think, is your energy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, people talk about anger, and I'm like, how do I deal with anger? I'm like, the first thing you got to do is get a handle on your energy. But like, that's easily the first thing you got to do, because what you'll notice is that you're more reactive and you're angrier when your energy's shit.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a Snickers advert with Elton John, where Elton John's kicking off, and someone says you're not the same when you're hungry or something. Is that's a thing, isn't it? Yeah. Remember the one with Mr. T? Get some nuts. You ain't hurt. You're pathetic. Get some nuts. They're not allowed to do that anymore, are they?
No.
Nah. I remember when they used to have that Yorkie advert, the Not For Girls thing. I was telling Nina about it. She thought it was amazing. Yeah. You remember that advert? Not For Girls. Yorkie, Not For Girls.
I remember my brother's 18th birthday party, fancy dress. And I went as Mr. T.
Did you?
Yeah, we had a utility belt full of Snickers.
B.A. Baracus.
And after a few drinks, I was throwing Snickers bars.
Get some nuts. Yeah. You ain't hurt. I ain't getting no plane. I think energy's a huge fucking part in that, do you?
Yeah, big time. So again, when I'm tired, I don't react as well. If I'm hungover, which is very, very rare these days, but guess what? Don't react as well.
Yeah.
And the biggest compliment I've had with that is, well, there's two really. One is the dogs. Dogs have complimented me on it. But the dogs on, I went through a phase when I started with you where if I'd moved quick, the dogs would shy away. And it broke my heart that I'd got to the stage where the dogs were frightened.
Yeah, that's like when you see kids in movies where the dad lifts a hand and they go,
Yeah. The dogs got like that with me.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like, I'd be sat on the sofa when I were at the worst with it. I'd be sat on the sofa and I'd be stroking one of the dogs, and then they'd get a bit carried away, try licking my face or jumping up or like pawing at me.
Yeah.
And I ended up snapping at them.
Yes.
So they got to the stage where they were frightened of me.
Yeah.
They wanted my attention, but at the same time, they were wary of it. That's more or less subsided. And compliment that Laura gave me as well, just saying how much more chilled out I am with the kids.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see people around you noticing that.
Yeah. Because sometimes that would have also taken a while as well. Because you sometimes get to the point where you're not getting feedback, where you're like, what the fuck's the point in this? Yeah, and you see that all the time in everything, actually, where people don't know, especially with anything like feelings, you don't know whether it's working.
Yeah. But again, I can hand on heart say I feel so much better in myself. Like, there's no... So I remember when I was seeing these therapists, like, the question both of them asked me, do you feel depressed? And I'm like, what's depression?
Sometimes.
What is depressed?
Sometimes I do,
And they couldn't answer it. Like, well, it's different for everyone. I'm like, you tell me what it is and I'll tell you if I feel it or not.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I probably didn't start off with the best attitude with them.
Yeah.
I just want to argue with him.
It's an interesting
question.
question.
Do you feel anxious? I'm like, tell me what it is and I'll tell you if I am or not.
Yeah.
And that, again, that for me is, you said something before about labelling yourself.
It's not super glue, it's Velcro. Labels that, Well, that was, fucking hell, that journey for me, I got all sorts first. And I haven't talked about this much because of what happened to me, it kind of just got pushed to the side. But you were talking about online tests before, man, when you were talking about labels. I did, so I was diagnosed ADHD first, before bipolar. So, but the bipolar thing just took over, that I just forgot about the ADHD.
Yeah.
And then last December, someone was telling me that they'd recently been, and I was like, you're not ADHD. So I did 5 tests. I passed them all with flying colours. Mate, I am ADHD off the fucking scale. I did one test. Me and Leslie sat and did the test. And I was like, this may as well be, every question may as well just be, are you Paul Mort?
I
couldn't. I was like, and I thought that was just who I was.
I did 3 recently. Recently, 6 months ago, so it was. And every one I did was, we recommend you get tested. We recommend
Kath
you
was
speak
something
to
like,
your doctor.
we did one with Kath. I did one, and I was, Kath, look at this. It was something to do with being a fucking serial killer or something. You ain't kidding. I was like, geez, it's mad. But I would, and again, I haven't delved too much into this. It just hasn't been something that I've studied, even though I was diagnosed it and given pills for it. And then it changed it all over on the bipolar pills and that. I just never looked into it because the whole bipolar and depression thing took over. But it's something that I'm really interested in. And I was like, I look at my life now and I've kind of it's weird. I've adapted to it. I just got to this point where I'm like, I'm not going to force myself to do that anymore. And I remember Dr. John DeMartini in that same year, 2020, January, it was the last time I flew for about fucking 18 months. I went out there and he was describing ADHD. And he was like, what you'll find is that people who have this attention deficit disorder is that they can't concentrate and focus on things that they don't value. But there are some things in their life that they get obsessed with. They get obsessed with it. They have attention. He called it attention surplus disorder. They spend too much time doing some other things that they love. So his example is this, and this is an obvious one, is you put a kid in a fucking geography class, no interest, label him ADHD because he's distracting people, but you put him in front of a fucking video game, can't get him off it. It's mad, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I get
you
that.
put me in front of numbers, mate, I'm out. I can't, my brain just, it doesn't seem wired for it. But then you put me in front of football, I get obsessed. So you know when people say they've got like people say they take their personality, but they get obsessed with certain things. So I just got to this point where I heard him say that, and something was just like, that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
So then I stopped trying to force myself to concentrate on things that I've got no fucking interest in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like certain books, I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah. And that's something I've took from you as well, that within my business, I try and build my business around me just doing the stuff that I want to do. Like the same sort of thing. If you put me in front of 10 emails that I've got to send, it'll probably take me 3 hours.
Yeah.
You say, right, for the next X amount, you put me in front of a video camera and I'll sit and I'll stand and I'll record content and I'll talk into the camera.
Yeah. And you're not get distracted.
Oh, no. Love it.
Absolutely. You can tell I'm not there because I'd be distracting you the whole time. Joe, look at this. Joe.
But like admin work, like admin processes, stuff like that, paperwork, I hate it with passion. And it takes me an age to do because I get distracted and I procrastinate, and then I need another coffee. But I need to eat again. And then
I've got no motivation. Then you're like, I'm not motivated.
Yeah.
I had this conversation the other day. I'm like, it's the same way. Like people, I got a bit of stick for this actually because I actually didn't handle it very well. Someone said, I was like, that same question. What do you do that makes your life harder? And someone was like, I've got ADHD, so I take too much on and I get overwhelmed in that. I'm like, well, what if that's not ADHD? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's that. If you're getting overwhelmed, it's usually you're not clearing your priorities and it's poor planning, taking too much on. And people are like, that's a symptom of ADHD. I'm like, is it though?
I think everything's a symptom.
It's a real interesting.
It's trendy now, though, isn't it?
And I just said it. I said it, and I didn't add enough context in my comments, so I took a lot of fucking pelters for it. And it was weird. The lad who said it was like, I get it, Paul. I get it. Loads of people got triggered on his behalf. One of them even called me Sunshine. I was like, Sunshine? They were saying something about being condescending. That I'm like, you've just called me Sunshine?
Let's talk about that then.
I said if I had links, if I was covered in Lynx Africa and Love Bites, I may as well have been back at school. You've just called me fucking Sunshine.
What's your opinion of people that get offended on someone else's behalf?
They lack, and again, this is me judging people, but you've asked me my opinion on them, so I'm going to give you it. They don't have much meaning in their life. So they're looking for things that energize them. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're looking for things that are going to energize them, make them feel a sense of purpose. Like, I remember I really had to figure this out because there's a forum on the internet where you can be anonymous. Remember forums? Remember those things? And someone sent me something where they started a thread about me, right? Though basically it's a website where people chat shit about celebrities and influencers and that. And part of me is like, they've started one about me. That's cool. That's cool.
Till you read it.
Till I read it. I'm like, what the fuck's the matter with these people?
Yeah.
You're on a forum and all it's designed for is to attack people. That's all it's designed for. To mention, so it's just names, and my name's on there. I hate this about him, and I hate how he does this, and he's gone off the rails, and what does he even do? And he's another snake oil salesman and all this shit. I mean, what? You've gone on a forum where the sole objective is to chat shit about people. And at first I was like, what the fuck's this? My friend Darren seen it, and he lost his shit with it. My manager had to have a word with him and everything. And I was like, and I had to get my head around it. And I was like, actually, I'm not pissed off at these people. I feel sorry for them. Because to do that, imagine what your life must be like if you joined a forum under an anonymous name and you're hanging out in this place with other people who are also under an anonymous name, just attacking someone. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
And I was like, they do it because it gives them meaning in their life. It energizes them because they've got nothing else going on. Hey, we'll get back to the podcast in a second, but first I wanted to let you know that you can get loads of free stuff, courses, books, audio books from my website, paulmort.uk. You'll also be able to find out how you can work with me inside of my world famous coaching programs over on that site too. Let's get back to it.
And that were a big thing for me as well within my business and creating content.
Well, I bet now since you started creating content.
Oh, yeah. I've been called sexist from a middle-aged bloke before.
Fancied you.
Oh, yeah. I've had all sorts of shit on there because I'm quite opinionated, and I'm not frightened to share my opinion either.
Well, mate, I think sometimes if you've got to if you want to actually make a mark on social media and influence people and have a positive impact on people, you have to be opinionated.
Yeah,
you have to be. In fact, it's not even opinionated. That's not even what it is, right? Everyone's opinionated. What most people are is inauthentic. They're scared to share their opinion. It's not that they're not opinionated. It's that they're scared to share because everyone has an opinion on almost everything,
and
but they're scared to share it.
Took me a while to get my head around as well, because the first few years I was creating content, I was holding myself back from putting stuff out what I wanted to put out in the fear of being. It sounds insane when I say it out loud, but in the fear of being judged by other people in my industry,
who are never going to pay you money.
Exactly. The only people on the planet who will never buy from me as clients. Only when I got to the stage, and it was something that a good friend of mine taught me. He says, look, your opinion of me is none of my business. And when I got my head around that and stopped giving a fuck what people thought was when my content got a lot better and sort of my channel and everything started growing. And I started being a lot more authentic on camera. I stopped wearing a suit and tie because I felt I had to wear a suit and tie. I started speaking how I speak, swearing a little bit. and started sort of being more like myself and coming across a lot better on camera.
And it's an interesting thing, the authentic thing, because honestly, I've spoke about it on the stage before where I'm like, the word makes me sick because it just gets overused. But essentially, and again, this is something that I figured out, was that authenticity is just it's the absence of inauthenticity. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? When you're being inauthentic, you're covering up your insecurities. You're trying to hide your imperfections. You're just hiding, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Authenticity is essentially just not hiding anymore, not lying, do you know what I mean? It's not even, and I think some people think, oh, well, that's about being brash and swearing and it's about being the loudest. I mean, actually, it's not. It's just having the courage to share your actual opinion.
Yeah.
Instead of sharing an opinion that people will neither agree or disagree with. Yeah. It's not actually really your opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, I've got certain opinions on certain sort of things within my industry which I share, and it divides, it polar opposites. We're making words.
Polar opposites.
There we go. So polarizes people in two different camps with it. But that's my opinion.
But you're not really doing it. I think sometimes you're not really purposefully trying to polarize people. You're just saying, here's what I think.
Here's my thoughts, here's my feelings about it. Like, if you don't agree, that's fine.
You know what? There's some things, I was thinking about this yesterday with Kath. I got offered on a podcast and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. And she was like, actually, I don't think you should do it. It's a bit political. And I was like, well, what are they going to ask? And she was saying, well, I'll ask your opinion on this. I'm like, well, actually, I don't have one on that. I'm like, sometimes it's okay to not have an opinion on something. I think one of the problems with the internet is people have strong opinions on things they know fuck all about.
Yep.
Don't they? I have opinions on things that I'm like, mate, you've done, this is why I haven't got, I think he's a bit of a moron, but when I say my opinion on Andrew Tate is based on 4 fucking 30-second videos that I've seen.
Yeah.
And people are like, do you not want to form an opinion and do more research? I'm like, no. Why would I research a guy who I think I don't like? I've got nothing to gain from that. There's nothing in that for me. But there's just certain things. People are like, what's your opinion on the cost of living thing? I'm like, I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to research it because it doesn't make me feel good. It's just, well, don't you think you should be informed? I'm like, well, I can't be informed of everything. Do you know what I mean? And I think, the thing I've heard when people say, why don't you watch the news? And how do you not know about this and that? And how do you know what's going on in the world? I'm like, the news isn't what's going on in the world. There's loads of things going on in the world. The news is just showing me what it wants to show me.
The news is showing you the most sensationalized version of it. So again, look, what sells more papers? Is it local man wins £1 million on the lottery, or is it local banker swindles £1 million from poor pensioners? Yeah. That's going to get more traction.
Of course it is.
So all the news ever portrays is the most negative stuff.
And it's not what's going on in the world.
No, it's not.
I mean, this is a great analogy that I've heard is like the world. If we're talking about what's going on in the world's like a jungle. And when you're in the jungle, you can either look up or look down. Everything's going on in the jungle. Everything is happening. There's so many things happening there. But if you look down, you could see a fucking snake eating a rat. If you look up, you could see a fucking hummingbird being born. The only difference is where your head is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all that's different. But everything's happening.
Yeah.
Everything's happening. I can't keep up with everything that's happening in the world. And if it's important, I'll find out. I choose to put my attention on things that make me feel empowered, make me feel excited. Do you know what I mean? Make me feel inspired. I don't even think people are aware they're doing this. I dropped a voice note on my Telegram group this morning saying, like, there's a thing, we all know that if you put more bad stuff in your body than good stuff, you feel like shit. But people forget that there's like a diet for your mind.
Yeah. That's
put more bad stuff in than good stuff. Oh, it's awful. It's a cesspit.
It's so negative.
Turn it into Twitter. And I think you can curate your news feed, but I can't go around stopping who comments on my shit. Do you know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why I'm on.
For that, man.
Oh, I don't even know. Apparently, I have 60,000 followers.
Well, I've been called a tax dodging parasite, tax dodging cunt,
which is true.
whoa.
Well, actually, you're right, mate. Thanks for noticing.
But mate, it's insane. Like, and the things people like argue with me on. I got an 18-year-old kid who lives at his mum's, arguing with me about all sorts of life stuff the other
Poor
day.
kid's wanking off with sandpaper on his hand.
And it's so negative. I did a post the other day talking about tax. I've got a friend and she's a tax advisor, like, she's super knowledgeable. She's got quite a decent following on TikTok, and we did sort of couple collaborations together. And I think the question was something about, should you tell that, how will the taxman find out, right? And she's like, well, there's ways and means. They'll always find everything out. The amount of comments on it
saying, well, I've done this and I've done that.
Slagging off fucking it's all bent, it's all this. And I'm like,
it's mad, isn't it?
What do you think pays for your ma's house when it's burning down? Like, who comes to save her then? What do you think pays for that?
It's mad, isn't it?
When your mum's ill in hospital, what pays for that? Well, it's all this and all bent MPs, and I'm like, no. It's paying to clean your streets. It's paying to hospitalise your mother. Not hospitalise her, but when she's in hospital, look after your mother. It's just, people don't sort of look at the big picture with
and they're looking for an argument, man.
Yeah, of course they are.
Yeah, I remember the other week I posted just a post saying I'm going to do a video on Andrew Tate. Next thing I know, it's got 180 comments on it. And I haven't even given me opinion. I just said I'm going to do a video. One woman was like, I'm not following you anymore. I'm disappointed to see this here. Disappointed to see what?
The best comment I've ever had, a woman told me that severely depressed her.
Oh, really?
Wow. Severely depressed her when the new health secretary took over. You know, the big girl. Morbidly obese health secretary.
No, I've heard about her.
Saving the NHS.
Oh, shit.
I put a post out basically saying, look, if this is what's the saviour of the NHS, God help us. Because I think, if anything, she could be a burden on the NHS in the next 10, 20 years. Yeah. It got turned into, it started our
fat shaming.
Evil for fat shaming. Then it got turned into, I'm a sexist pig, because I wouldn't be saying it apparently if it were a bloke.
Going even harder on a bloke.
And some of the DMs I got wishing death upon me. And also,
really?
Oh, mate, it was insane.
I spent a day on TikTok. And
this one on Instagram. This.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this one on Instagram. We were insane.
Sure.
And like saying, somebody said, you've severely depressed me today, Joe. I've followed you for a while. You've severely depressed me today. I am unfollowing you.
Yeah, I am not responsible for your feelings. And it's not a fucking airport. Don't need to announce your departure. You know what I mean? It's not a party. You don't need to tell us you're leaving.
Now triggered people get on.
I saw someone yesterday that said they don't follow me. And then I looked and they hadn't. I just clicked. I was like, who's this lady saying she's going to unfollow me because of this? And she hadn't even unfollowed me. I'm unfollowing. So, okay, fine. Thank you.
I'm walking out of that room and shouting 30 times, I'm leaving.
Please pay me some attention on the way out. Come on, somebody noticed that I'm leaving. And someone begged me to stay. Please beg me to stay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like when them lads are having I see one yesterday of a guy, you know, when the mates are holding them back. I'm like, mate, if you really wanted to have that fight, you'd have the fight. But, don't hold me, hold me back. Hold me back. Do you know what I mean? If you want to have that fight, you'd have it.
Tommy Fury.
Joe Woodhouse, where do the guys find out more about what you do, what you're up to? So
the best place on Instagram where all my videos go and all my content. So Joe_FamilyWealth101.
Joe_FamilyWealth101. And I will tell you this, Joe's Instagram is not boring. Well, I was going to say it's not your typical financial advisor, IFA, wealth manager content.
Yeah, look, I'm a big believer if you're smiling, you're happy, you're laughing, you'll retain more information. So I try and make my content as entertaining as possible.
Infotainment.
Edutainment.
Edutainment. There you go. Joe Woodhouse. I've loved it, mate. Thank you.
You too, brother. Bye.